So the next thing we need to estimate is our fixed costs. And our fixed costs are going to be all the things that we have to pay continually, but that aren't associated with each unit individually. So that's the difference between fixed and variable. So our fixed costs are going to be things like labor costs. We got to pay our employees to sell the burgers. I've got to pay things like utilities and rent, and I've got to pay all those associated things at each different, every month or every 2 weeks or however that might work. And so I estimate my fixed cost, and then the last thing I've got to estimate before EBIT is depreciation. Now, depreciation is an accounting measure that I do to try to tie the costs of buying fixed assets with the associated revenue generated by those fixed assets. And so for my burger joint, the fixed assets that I might need to buy are all the associated equipment that I need to make burgers and to have people come and sit in my restaurant. So I've got to buy griddles, and I've got to buy dishwashers, and I've got to buy a soda machine, and I've got to buy sinks and stuff to kit out my bar. Maybe I've got to build a bar and a kitchen and things like that. We got to buy tables and chairs and a cash register and all that stuff. So let's assume that we estimate all those costs, and this is one of the estimates that's pretty easy. And in other words, these are all things that we can estimate by just looking at the prices of all these things. And so I can get a pretty direct estimate of that. Let's say got $90,000. We're going to depreciate that what's called straight line, and we'll talk about depreciation here in just a minute. Now, the first type of depreciation that we want to talk about is something called straight line depreciation. And straight line depreciation is the easiest form of depreciation because straight line depreciation is even depreciation in every year. So we depreciate our asset by the same amount in every year that we depreciate the asset. And the way we figure out straight line depreciation is using this formula. And the formula says the cost basis, which is what we originally paid for the asset, minus any expected salvage value, which is what we expect to be able to sell the asset for at the end of its useful life. Right? This is decided in advance. That's why it's called expected salvage. This is not the same thing as actual salvage, which is what we sell, that we do sell the asset for. So cost basis minus the expected salvage value divided by the number of years of useful life. This is the number of years that we expect to be able to use the asset for. Now there's a special case of straight line depreciation that we'll use in this class a lot, and that's called straight line to zero. And the special case here is just that we set the expected salvage value equal to 0. By definition, we say we won't be able to salvage this asset for any additional money. And so what that means is the formula collapses. It goes from cost basis minus expected salvage to cost basis minus 0 divided by the number of years, and finally is equivalent to simply the cost of the asset, which is what we originally pay, divided by the number of years we expect to use the asset. And that's straight line depreciation. So I'm going to depreciate those assets on a straight line basis, which means evenly throughout the year. I'm going to assume 3 years life for the assets, so I'm going to depreciate $30,000 per year if I have $90,000 worth of fixed assets that I purchased. Sales minus costs minus depreciation gives me EBIT of $33,000, and EBIT is what's called operating profit, and this is the cash left over, or the accounting level of profit left over after I account for all my costs. Then I pay taxes on that amount. Say I didn't need a loan, so I don't have any interest, because EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes. But if I don't have any interest payments because I don't have a loan, then it's just the next thing I do is take taxes out. I'm going to pay taxes at a 34% rate. Now this is a little high. The corporate tax rate was just reduced to 20%. So I wouldn't actually be paying 34% anymore, but it's an old example, I haven't updated it. So EBIT minus taxes of $11,000 gives me net income, which is called profit, or sometimes just called earnings. And I get profit here, or earnings of $21,780. So this is a profitable project, this is a profitable business based on these estimates. However, it's not a very livable business if this is going to be the only thing I'm doing. Making $21,000 in profit is not enough to pay myself a salary unless that's already in fixed costs, but fixed costs are only $12,000, so that's probably not salary. So I'm going to be sleeping under the bar if this is the best the business can do. But again, simple example, you don't have to take it too seriously. Now what I'm interested in from the income statement is a measure called operating cash flow, which is a financial measure that is separate from the accounting information here, and it's separate because it's a measure purely of the cash the business generates. So this is a measure of profit or of cash flow that removes all of the non-cash expenses. Now operating cash flow is EBIT plus depreciation, which again, this is not a cash expense. In other words, I don't actually spend $30,000 a year on fixed assets. What I do is I spend $90,000 in the beginning of the project, and then I try to slowly spread that cost out over time, but I can't spread the cost practically. In other words, to buy all the assets, I had to spend $90,000 in cash right on day one. The accounting measure lets me spread that cost out over time, but this isn't a cash expense that I incur every year. So I remove that, so EBIT plus depreciation. That means I have $63,000 in cash instead of $33,000 in cash. Then I subtract taxes because I do have to pay taxes in cash. And so operating cash flow is a measure of profit or cash flow that is the measure of how much cash I actually have on hand in the bank account at the end of every year, which is $51,780. So that's a little bit better if I'm choosing to ignore depreciation. And that's not always a good thing to do. Again, depreciation has a real benefit. And one of the benefits of depreciation is that I'm treating this as if it was a real cost, and I'm putting this money aside so that I can replace these assets as they finally fail, right? All my fixed assets have a useful life, and they're going to need to be replaced. And hopefully I'm using depreciation as a sort of pseudo savings account to save up and replace these assets as they fail. It doesn't mean I have to do that though. And so operating cash flow is a measure of the cash I have on hand. Then I can look at some balance sheet projections. And the two balance sheet projections that we care about are the working capital and the fixed capital, the fixed asset, and my net working capital. So you can see that I'm projecting that I'm going to need net working capital in every year of $20,000. And that could be, let's just treat it as inventory, but it could also be that my current assets are high because I'm selling things on credit, or I have a lot of cash on hand because I need to make sure that I have cash to pay my employees if my sales are not even throughout the year. Whatever it is, I'm going to need a net working capital balance of $20,000. And that's not going to change. I'm estimating that I need $20,000 every year for 3 years. So I make the initial investment, and then if it's inventory, I'm drawing down that inventory, and then I'm using part of my revenues from the previous year as cost to build my revenue back up in the following year. To build my inventory back up in the following year. Sorry. Now, net fixed assets. This is just the balance sheet account of buying the $90,000 worth of assets. And what I want you to notice, of course, is that on the balance sheet, my assets decrease by the value of depreciation over their useful life. So $90,000 is the purchase price of my assets, but I depreciate that value in the first year by $30,000. That's why it's $60,000. I depreciate it again by $30,000 in the second year, and again by $30,000 in the third year, until the value of my assets on my books is zero. This is something called the final book value. The final book value is whatever the assets are worth at the end of their useful life or at the end of the project's life. Right? So the book value of assets is slowly decreasing by the amount of depreciation in every year, and that might be a source of cash flow coming later on, especially if I choose to sell the asset. Because what we should recognize here is that even though I have all these let's say my assets are, a griddle and a soda machine, all the other associated kitchen stuff like a dishwasher and sinks, and then all the tables and chairs. Even though I've listed them here for $0 total value at the end of year 3, at the end of year 3, presumably they have some value. I could sell the griddle, I could sell the oven, I could sell the tables and chairs for something. So even though the final book value is 0, the final market value, the sales value of these assets might be different than 0. And so there may be some residual cash flow available to me at the end of the project if I sell my assets. We call this a liquidation value. So then let's use all that information to calculate cash flows from assets. All right, these are the cash flows that we evaluate the project on. And year 0 is always our initial period. This is where the investments get made. And our investments always get made in working capital and fixed assets. In other words, I don't have any operating cash flow ever in the initial year in year 0, because operating cash flow comes from sales and minus costs, minus taxes. I don't have any sales in the first year. This is me, year 0 is me building the restaurant and fixing it all up. But I need $20,000 investment in working capital. I'm gonna buy a bunch of inventory. I'm gonna put some cash in the savings account for bad times. And then my capital spending, I'm gonna buy all of these fixed assets, my griddle, my washing machine, build up a bar and tables and chairs. So operating cash flow minus the change in net working capital minus net capital spending gives me cash flow from assets. And here in year 0, it's always gonna be negative because this is my investment. So I am subtracting a 0 minus a $20,000 investment in working capital minus a $90,000 purchase of fixed assets gives me negative $110,000 investment in year 0. And then in the remaining years, I have operating cash flow, and I have operating cash flow that's the same in all 3 years because I don't project any differences, of $51,780. And then I subtract any new investment in working capital and any new investment in capital spending. And I don't make any new investments in either of those for the life of the project. So I don't add any more inventory investment, or I don't add any more cash to the savings account, and I don't buy any more fixed assets. I just make do with the assets that I've already purchased. So operating cash flow minus the change in net working capital minus net capital spending for years 1 and 2, those are both 0. So cash flow from assets is just equal to operating cash flow here. In the third year, in the final year, we have our operating cash flow of $51,780, but we also treat our investment in working capital as being recoverable. And so you can think about this. Let's say my investment in net working capital here was I bought some inventory, and so let's say I have a bar in there and I'm selling booze. So I have all this inventory. I bought all this booze, and I have $10,000 in my savings account that I was using to pay short-term stuff, and then I would replenish the savings account as my revenue came in. That money is still there, right? When I finish the project, if I close down my restaurant after 3 years, the savings account still has $10,000 in it. And hopefully I sell all of my inventory off and I get all that money that I had sitting there in inventory back. So this investment in working capital, you can think about it as a revolving account, but it also is an account that is always going to be able to be replenished at the end. So I get it back. And so that means it's a negative investment. It's the reverse of spending if I'm getting it all back. And so when I subtract a negative, I'm adding it, and that's why in this third year you see that we add $51,780, and then I add the change in working capital. But I don't add a change in net capital spending because I don't have one, and so I have this final year's cash flow from assets of $71,780.